Hi, everybody. It's Marcus Gonzo, MMA Properties. So tax day is almost here. So it's time to take a look at real estate market in Lexington for January, February, March, or Q1 of 2024. So let's get started. I'm going to show you lots of information in this masterclass, but there's a lot more actually on our website and in the market review. So let me show you where you can find a lot more information over and above what I'm going to talk about during this masterclass. So if you go to our website, maproperties.com, and go to the statistics tab, you will see a screen similar to this one that shows a whole array of different metrics: inventory levels, surplus list price, average prices, home sales, rental information, and so on. About 50 towns worth of stats, real estate stats. So Lexington is, of course, there. But if you're living in Lexington and looking to move outside the town, maybe living outside the town looking to move into Lexington, there's a lot of information there that you will find really useful about what's happening in the real estate market in Greater Boston. More specifically around the Lexington market, every year we produce the Lexington Market Review. In there, we take an in-depth look at the single-family homes, condominiums, new construction, luxury, which we define as about 2.5 million, the rental market, lots of information about what happened in 2023. And then we get our crystal ball out to see what our predictions are for 2024. So this went out in mailboxes in late January, early February this year. We have lots more copies in the office. If you want one, just reach out to us and we'll be more than willing to send you a copy. Lots of information on our website, specifically the analysis on the graphs that you see in the publication are also on our website too. So lots of information, very in-depth, specifically about what's going on in the Lexington market. But if you're looking wider and go to our website, the Stats tab, you'll find information on, say, around about 50 different towns. So lots more information there. But for this masterclass, let's focus on single-family homes. Then I'll take a look at what's happened in the wider market, what's driving the market essentially, and then we'll get our crystal ball and just predict what's going to happen for the rest of 2024. So single-family homes. I'm going to be showing lots of graphs this evening. Now remember, we've only got Q1 in the books, if you like, and so some of the graphs, and specifically the home sold, I'll show it here, doesn't show very much information but for 2024, but it begins to give us a sense of where we expect the market to go for the rest of the year, because there is some activity during Q1. It's not completely dead in terms of the market. So there is some activity, and that gives us an indication of where we anticipate the market going for the rest of the year. So let's take a look and kind of go through a whole series of graphs here to give you a sense of where we are from both a selling perspective and a buying perspective. So first graph is the number of homes sold. What's interesting about this is less so 2024, but more what happened in the COVID years, 2020, 2021. You can see a lot of home sales there. I can just show you with this magic pointer I have. Lots of home sales during that year. The kind of churn of people deciding that working from home, that my home doesn't work for me, it's too small. My home doesn't work for me, it's too large. Lots of activity in the housing market. Then in 2022, that kind of dropped off, unsurprisingly, because we'd seen so much activity in the prior 2 years. 2023 was a change. We're kind of returning to normal in terms of the buying and the selling behavior. But high interest rates brought the number of listings way down that we would have anticipated in a normal market. As we look at 2024, it looks very likely that we have the same number of sales and the same number of listings as we saw in 2023. So today, anyway, it looks like the activity we're going to see in terms of the number of homes sold is going to be closer to 2023 than it was into the years prior to COVID. We're clearly not going back to the COVID years. Well, I have a little more to say about that later on, but we're not going back to those years. But certainly we would anticipate us going back to that 2015, 16, 17 years. And we're not there yet because interest rates is having this impact on the selling behavior in that less sellers are bringing homes on the market. Now, we can see that, where are we 2023 versus 2024 better in this graph, which is the cumulative sales, actually the cumulative under agreements, because that gives us a very immediate sense of the market. The sell price is something like 4 to 6 weeks later than the under agreement date. So it's somewhat a lagging indicator. But so where we can, we'll use the under agreement date because it's pretty immediate. As you can see, the blue is the cumulative sales for 2023. The pink color there is the cumulative sales for 2024. And as you can see, we're about on track, 2023 versus 2024. So that's why I say about the same number of homes sold under agreement this year versus last year. In terms of the number of homes listed, what's interesting is to look at 2023 in comparison to those prior years. You can see it is very low. 341 homes were listed. It's not sold, that's actually listed. Whereas now, currently, we're at about 75 homes that have been listed this year. So that's kind of the selling activity. A little more to say about that in a moment, but that's the selling side of the equation, if you like. Now let's turn our attention a little to the buying side of the equation, and specifically a couple of important metrics that give us a sense of buyer confidence in the market. First one is pretty straightforward, is average days on the market. How long does a home take to sell? You can see it's higher than we've seen previously, 49 versus 37. 37 was the impact of high interest rates. 49 is higher than that, but be a little cautious about this number because days on the market is a measure of when it's sold. And we've got some of the homes that sold in December, early January, really not anywhere near the low point of the market, not nowhere near the high, the low point of the market. A lot of buyers looking to get a discount on their homes sitting on the market because buyers really not there, just not interested in buying in December and January. And so that number is slightly higher. What we would anticipate now as the year progresses, that number to trickle back down, probably similar to where we are, although I think a little lower than we saw in 2023 for some reasons I'll talk about in a moment. So right now 49, but I anticipate that number will begin to come down somewhere into the low 30s is my prediction for that one as the year plays out. The other metric we look at for buyer confidence is the sell price to list price ratio. So imagine a home comes on the market at 1.2 million, sells for 1.2 million. That's 100% sell price to list price ratio. That's where we were in Lexington. And once we came out of the crash, 2007, 8, 9, and kind of activity came back in 2013, 14, 15, 16, and so on, we were around about 100%. Some years 101, some years 99, but on average about 100. Rose dramatically, as you can see, to 106 and 107% during COVID, and that was coming right back down, 102 last year. And to date anyway, year to date, we're at about 100%. I'd anticipate that would tick up a little bit. But days in the market, I anticipate will tick down. This ratio will tick up because of that lack of activity, that buyers looking for a discount in December and January, we kind of get that information, sells in January, February, and February. So a little bit lower than I would anticipate for the year. Perhaps at 102, maybe a little higher. I may anticipate a little higher than we saw last year. So we're roundabout. We're not quite at the behavior we would expect in terms of a normal market, but certainly far more normal, that makes sense, than we saw during COVID years. Interesting to look, and let me talk a little more about why I think we're going to get a little more buoyancy in the market, specifically in terms of the buyers. It'll become clear when I show you the next few graphs. If we break out that ratio by month, so this is 2023 data broken out by month, you can see that ratio declined as the year went on. Buoyant in the early part of the year, quite buoyant, 101, 102, 106, and 104, so relatively high numbers in the early part of the year, and then it just kind of tailed off. Now, that's a lack of activity. about 50% of the sales occur in that spring market, which you might define February, March, April, May, June timeframe. So less activity in the second half of the year than in the first half. So some of it's a consequence of that. Some of it's also a consequence of developers overbuilding during 2022 and early parts of 2023, and then having to reduce prices in order to sell those homes. See some of that kicking in as well. But overall, a general lack of enthusiasm, perhaps confidence in the market with buyers, specifically around where are interest rates going. Now, let's kind of bring that up to date. Here's the equivalent graph for 2024. You can see we're at a higher level in 2024, the first 3 months, than we were in the first 3 months. Certainly the last 3 months of 2023, no surprise there really, but actually higher than we were in the first 3 months of 2023. So we are seeing slightly more, I don't want to overplay it, but we're certainly seeing slightly more buyer confidence, buyer enthusiasm to buy in 2024 than we saw in 2023. Now, why is that? I think some of it is that buyers sat on the fence in 23, not really sure where interest rates are going. We have somewhat more clarity right now, although I would argue not as much as we would like, and certainly not the impending rate drops. Now they look to be being pushed out. But there is a sense of, one, I really do need to buy. Secondly, even if I buy at a relatively high interest rate, maybe 6.5%, I'm going to refi in a couple of years' time anyway. So let's buy now. Let's take the hit today, because guess what? In 2, 3, 4 years' time, when interest rates do start to come down appreciably, I'm just simply going to refi anyway. So those are the two effects that are impacting buyers in this market. I just need to buy. I waited last year. I don't want to wait another year, and I can chase interest rates down. So more confidence in the market. I don't want to overplay it, but certainly more confidence in the market in the first 3 months of this year than we saw in 2023. Excuse me. Let's take a look at that data again, but let's break out existing homes versus new construction. Blue is existing homes, the sale price list price ratio for existing homes. Green is that ratio for new construction. You can see it's much lower, 93% in March, 88% in December. And that's a consequence of developers overbuilding in later 22 into 23. They just built too many homes. They need to sell them too in order to reduce their costs. Clearly, they're impacted by high interest rates in the same way the buyers are. That they have to finance the development. And so we saw developers reducing prices to get rid of those homes, to get them off their books. And you can see that playing out. And that has had an impact. If I bring this forward to 2024, not that many home sales, most of them in February, as it turns out. That ratio for February was 98%, lower than we get for existing homes. No surprise there. But we are beginning to see that excess inventory beginning to be sold off, which is what we need to see in terms of growing, if you will, getting back to normal, the new construction market. A lot more going on in that market. Maybe I'll put that into another masterclass in terms of what's changing in terms of floor area ratio and so on. If you have specific questions about that, please reach out to us. There's a lot happening in this market right now, in the new construction market. But overall, the number of new construction homes, the excess that we have has begun to be and is beginning to kind of tail off. And so we're going to get back to a more normal market. Let's take a look at the all-important prices. Here's the average sale price. You can see it's quite high. It's just over 1.9 million. But be cautious here. We haven't had that many sales. Overall, about 17% of sales, in fact, that we'd anticipate for the full year. And we've had some of those new construction homes selling, which sell for a higher price. And so there's some skew in this average. So let me peel that skew out and back that skew out, if you will, and look at the median. And you can see we're around about the same number in terms of the median. So no appreciable house price appreciation median-wise, which is, as we would expect. And I got some more information where we are with average home prices in a moment. In terms of the number of homes sold, new construction, we're at about 10. That's about 20%. Let me show you the luxury market, and then I'll talk you through what we would expect on that. So here's the luxury market, same graph essentially. Blue is existing homes, green is new construction. This shows me the number of homes, new construction homes that sold in 2024 year to date. So overall for the market, about 70% of the homes have sold. So imagine, the homes that we anticipate selling this year, about the same number as last year, as I mentioned previously, about 17% have sold in overall. In terms of the luxury market, it's about 16, so we're about the same, tracking the same as the overall market. In terms of new construction, it's running at about 20%, so slightly higher, 3 to 4% higher than the market in general. And that's the consequence of those price reductions I just talked about, where developers are forced to, or are being forced to reduce prices, and therefore those homes are selling. So that's where we are. So about 70% of the market overall, 16 for luxury, over 2.5, and about 20% for new construction, which is beginning to get rid of that excess inventory. Interesting to look at 2023, same Q1 data. Overall, we got about 12% of the home sales in Q1 for 2023. So that's interesting. Again, back to that much more confidence, I should be too enthusiastic about this, more confidence from our buyers in 2024 than they were in 2023, right? For the reasons I just explained, high time I bought, and hey, I'll just chasing interest rates down. So let's delve into that average sale price a little more. There's quite a lot going on in this graph, so sorry about that. But I've got three things going on essentially. So let me kind of break out what each of those three things are. The orange bars are the number of new construction homes. As I said previously, we've had about 10 this year so far, in comparison to 50 for the year in total in 2023, about 20%. The blue line is the average new construction price. You can see it rose quite rapidly during COVID and afterwards, but took a decline last year. Now that was the consequence of an excess supply, if you will, in terms of new construction. Developers built too many homes. They just kept building them as if it was COVID. And guess what? There weren't that number of buyers around. Interest rates put a real damper on the buyer behavior. And so those homes didn't sell. And so given that, as I said before, developers are fighting or are impacted by the high interest rates in the same way that buyers are, you can see that they were forced to reduce prices. And guess what? The average price reduced from about 2.9 million to 2.8 million. Interestingly, this year, early days, I think we're going to see that number creep down. We had a couple of high sale price new construction home sell. It actually looks to be rebounding slightly. As I anticipate this will tick down just because there were a couple of expensive homes, new construction homes that sold. But I think we are going to see an increase in that new construction house price just because the number of new construction homes for sale is declining. There are about 9 for sale right now in the Lexington market as we're recording this, which is a relatively low number in comparison to where we were, for example, 6 months ago. Of more interest to existing homeowners is, of course, so what's happening with the existing home prices? And that's the red line on this graph. It rose during COVID, as did new construction prices. It went from about 1.2 to 1.5, about 25% rise, for example, but has been relatively static since. Round about the 1.6, 1.55 to 1.6 million. And so we're getting back to that price appreciation of existing homes running with somewhere between 3 and 5%. Looks like we're getting back to those numbers. No surprise, we saw a jump because of COVID, but now house price appreciation is around about that 3 to 5% that we historically have seen. So that's kind of interesting and something that sellers should consider as they think about, when is the right time to sell. So lot going on in that graph. So the orange bars are the number of new construction home sales. The blue is new construction home prices, and then the all important non-new construction prices is that red line. And we'll update this as we go through the year. So we'll keep this up to date in terms of where we see that average sale price going for existing homeowners. So those are some of the graphs I want to show you, at least the real estate graphs I wanted to show you. But let's take a kind of view in terms of what's happening here in terms of the drivers that are in the market, given that the effects of COVID are over. But in terms of the housing market, at least anyway, and we're back now to two main drivers, mortgage interest rates and the demographic shifts, which bring people into and allow people to leave the Lexington or and the other housing market. So mortgage interest rates first. This is the data from 2010 to 2024. You can see that sharp rise that we all know about. But what's interesting, though, we saw the reduction, I guess, early 2024, actually late 2023. Now, as we're in 2024, so that rate has begun to stabilize. Let me kind of zoom in a little bit in the last couple of years, and you can see that here. You can see, if I can point it out here, there was the reduction, just the rise, of course, in 2022 and 2023. There's the reduction we saw in late 2023. Okay, maybe this is a precursor to a much wider reduction in interest rates come 2024, but then now they've stabilized, in fact, creeped up a little bit actually, to around about that kind of 7%, just slightly below, 6.75%, the average 30-year home, average 30-year fixed mortgage rate. So we begin to kind of stabilize, really. And that, the fact that it's not rising the way it was in 22, late 22 or 22 and 2023, as what's bringing that confidence back into the market in terms of the buyers. They do see that, yes, interest rates are coming down. Sure, they've stabilized for a little bit, but there is discussion that the next Fed interest rate reduction will be in June. Time will tell. One commentator, you say it will be June. Another one says, oh, inflation's higher, therefore it'll be a bit pushed out a little bit. But it does seem like, at least the sentiment, if that's the right way to look at it, is that we will anticipate those interest rates begin to decline. And in fact, if you look at the people that predict this for a living, this is the mortgage banker predictions. The green is the predictions, blue are actuals. So we have Q1, about 7.3%, 6.8%. And then Q2 through Q1 2025, will look to be coming down perhaps to 6% by the end of the year. Time will tell whether they're accurate. It kind of changes on a month-to-month basis. But it does look like those mortgage interest rates are coming down. And that's what's giving buyers confidence that they can come back into the market thinking I can chase them down through refinancing as we move forward. So there is some light at the end of the tunnel, if you like, at least today, as we're recording this in April. There is some light at the end of the tunnel. I guess in December, I'll do this again and say, I got April wrong. We'll see it time will tell. But yeah, buyers are beginning to look at this and go, yeah, hey, guess what? Interest rates are going down. Let's get back into the market. I waited 2023. I don't want to wait out 2024. In terms of the other major shift, we're back to a graph that if any of you watched masterclasses from me previously, you would have seen this graph, which is the population pyramid for the US Census, specifically what's driving the market of demographic shifts, homeowners getting to retirement age and therefore looking to downsize, first-time homebuyers getting to, I need to start thinking about a larger home as perhaps I start a family, coming into the market. And that, homeowners move out, first-time home buyers move in. And that's the primary driver, if you will, of the market. The issue we have today is the group that could be downsizing, the group that could be move-up buyers too, of course. This is part of that picture, are not moving. They're staying where they are because of mortgage interest rates on the house they potentially need to buy to move into. And so that's kind of put a bit of a stopper, log jam, if you will, on the market, because until people sell, nobody can buy. There's only a finite number of homes. It's not like Texas where you can just build. And you certainly can't do that inside 495. Then to some extent, not within 495 either, but certainly not within 595. And so we are stuck with a finite resource, and we really do need existing homeowners who are those kind of downsizers to sell, to allow new buyers to move into the market and kind of get back into that cycle. It's the cycle that we expect. So that's what's happening today. The primary drives what's happening today. So predictions. Let's check my notes here. What do I think of the predictions? Well, I think there's enough information, early days, of course, so let's kind of, be cautious about this, but there's enough information today to show that buyers are back in the market. Now, are they in the market in the same numbers we saw in 2020 and 2021? No, they're not. But they're certainly in higher numbers and with more confidence than we saw in the early part of 2023, when rates were rising with no light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, in terms of rates. So there are most definitely more buyers in the market this year than we've seen previously, and with more confidence. So that's clear. Now, there always are in the first quarter of the year anyway. There's new buyers coming in, the Christmas and the holiday season's behind us. The weather's changing. I'm looking outside. Here we are in April. It's snowing, but anyway, that's going to be 60 degrees on Monday. But that always brings more buyers into the market early part of the year. We always say, if sellers ask, when is the right time to bring your home on? Actually, early in the market, because there are lots of buyers around. And that's true this year as it's been in prior years too. But I do think as we go into Q2 and Q3, that those number of buyers will stay at those relatively high numbers, and with the confidence that we're seeing, as the year plays out. The reason the challenge comes, of course, is now when we turn our attention to the sellers, is the sellers are not moving. They are not selling their homes, certainly at the level that's required to satisfy the buyer demand, put it that way. So, buyer demand is at X, and guess what? The seller activity is less than X. And that's a problem. And that will inevitably bring some competition. We've heard anecdotal stories. Don't want to kind of read too much into it, of multiple offer situations. And we've definitely had that situation. Once a house comes on the market and it's presented well, it's marketed well, it's priced well, those are prerequisites, even more so now than previously. It's always been important, but it's very important today. Price it well, market it well. Homes are selling. Those that are not selling, you can look at them and go, it's not selling because there's a reason. It's not presented well. It's not priced well. So those which are serious and think about the market and do it properly are actually selling, and selling with multiple offers. That's key. But, back to the sellers in this market, I'm not sure what sellers are waiting for in terms of 2025 is going to be better, because let's kind of play this out from seller's perspective. If interest rates decline, when interest rates decline, let's be positive about it. When interest rates decline and into 25, that will bring more sellers into the market. Clearly, the buyers are already there today, but now all of a sudden, the seller's not in a market where listings are scarce and therefore there's low supply. They're now in a situation where there is lots of supply. So I anticipate that the sellers sitting on the fence today looking to sell in 2025, because interest rates will be lower, will find themselves in a more competitive situation. That is, there are going to be other homes on the market when they come on the market. So that's not a good thing from a seller's perspective. A buyer's perspective is different, of course. We will see the supply coming back, which means buyers can be a little bit more choosy. We'll perhaps see some price reductions coming in, or at least not the high price appreciation we've seen previously, as buyers have choice because they're on sellers. So I do anticipate as many sellers this year as 2023. But what I would suggest to sellers is they look carefully at whether 2024 is the right year to come on the market or whether they're delaying for the wrong reasons. Because, as I say, 2025 will almost inevitably see more sellers coming in just because they haven't done that in 2024. So let me kind of summarize that one. Buyers, guess what? There are lots of you around. That will inevitably bring more competition into the market. It's going to get not quite as difficult as it has previously to buy in this market, but it's going to return a little bit more to that normal in 2024. 25 may be a different story. Time will tell. Sellers still sitting on the fence, waiting for interest rates to come down. My recommendation to them is look closely at that. Or ask yourself this question: is now the right time to come on? If it isn't, if it doesn't make sense, 2024, for a whole raft of other reasons, lifestyle reasons, is the wrong year to sell. I clearly don't sell. But if you're putting it off to 2025 because I don't really know why, then maybe this year is the year to come on the market, because it's highly likely that in 2025 we will see more sellers just because they haven't been selling in 2023 or 2024. Sellers eventually have to sell. So that's where we are at the end of Q1 of 2024. Hope that was interesting. Lots going on. We can say beginning to get some insight in terms of what's happening in the market. We'll know more as more data comes in, as the year progresses, and we will do these masterclasses on a regular basis. If you have any questions on what's happening in terms of details, please reach out to us. We're more than welcome to sit down. As you can tell, we like to talk about this, so there's lots of information, additional information we can show you. This is just kind of a snapshot, if you will. So there's lots of other information. And if you're interested in what's going on in other towns, reach out to us too, because we certainly have all that information for about 50 different towns. So with that, I say thank you for watching. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.